Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, I am going to be outlaying my preseason power rankings for the upcoming NBA season, which, by the way, starts today. I can't wait. Before I get too far into it, though, I want to remind you all to leave a like and subscribe. I've been appreciating all the support that I've been receiving lately, and I hope to see that continue. Now, without further ado, let's get into these power rankings. Now, before I really start talking about this, I want to lay out a few of my guidelines in making these rankings. So, what this is essentially a ranking from 1 to 30 of the teams that I view to have the most talent to the least talent in the entire league. I'm not taking fit into consideration, I'm not taking coaching into consideration, I'm not taking potential injuries into consideration. This is just how I view each team in terms of talent. So, for example, a team that I have as my number 3 seed in my season preview video might show up as the 15th best team in this video. Obviously, it might and probably will not be that extreme, but this is based off of how good I think each team is, not how successful I think they'll be this season. So, now let's get into it. At number 1, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. I think that the Bucks trading for Jrue Holiday cemented them as the best team in the NBA. I think that he adds some much-needed shot creation ability while not being a huge downgrade, and perhaps not even a downgrade at all on the defensive end from Eric Bledsoe. They still have Giannis Antetokounmpo. They still have Chris Middleton. I think that this is a super talented team, and that's why I have them number 1 in my power rankings. Number 2, we have the Los Angeles Clippers. This was the team that I thought was the best in the league last season, and despite them losing to 7 games to the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference semifinals, last season, that was not quite enough for me to downgrade them, and I still think that they are going to have an elite level team. I loved the additions of Luke Kennard and Serge Ibaka. I think that they really complement the star core of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to the maximum effect. And I think this team is going to be quite good. They're my pick to win the Western Conference, and I've got them number 2 in my power rankings. At number 3, I have the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm not nearly as high on this team as many people are. I think that they have essentially flatlined from last season to this season, as I think that the Dennis Schroeder addition is a huge upgrade over Rajon Rondo and Avery Bradley. But Wesley Matthews is a downgrade from Danny Green. Montrezl Harrell is pretty much the same level of player as Dwight Howard. And I don't really think that Marc Gasol is that big of an upgrade over JaVale McGee, because I think that he's going to struggle to stay on the court in a playoff series now because of his older age. Because of all those factors put together, as well as a potential slight decline in the production from LeBron James, I have the Lakers here at 3rd. At number 4, I have the Denver Nuggets, who I think have a chance to really cement themselves as one of the best teams in the NBA this year. We saw them have a terrific run in the playoffs last year behind great performances from Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. If Michael Porter Jr. can step up and be that true 3rd star for this team, I think they have a true shot at being a title contender, and I have them 4th on my power rankings. At number 5, we have the Brooklyn Nets. I don't have the Nets making the Eastern Conference Finals, which might be a bit of a surprise considering how high on them, but I have them pretty much on the same level as the team beneath them, and I think that they would lose to, I guess I'll say it, my 6th team is the 76ers. I think the Nets would lose to the Sixers in a playoff series because of their inability to stop Joel Embiid. But as an overall roster, I think they are more talented. I'm a big fan of Karis LeVert. I think Jared Allen is on the rise. I think Spencer Dinwiddie is quite good, although there is a chance that they trade him at some point during this season. But for now, I think that this is a really good team, and I've got them 5th with the 76ers. I love the core of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid as individual talents. I'm not so sure that they mesh together, because I think that Ben Simmons would be better utilized as a player who is the roller in a pick-and-roll situation instead of the ball handler, because it would allow him to get into the short roll where he's absolutely terrific with his plus decision-making and finishing. But this team is still super talented. They still have some really nice pieces. I loved the moves that they made this offseason, trading for Seth Curry. drafting Tyrese Maxey, trading for Danny Green, getting rid of Al Horford, who really didn't work with the rest of their roster. I think this team's going to be quite good. That's why they're 6th in my power rankings. At number 7, I have the Utah Jazz. I'm quite bullish on the Jazz's prospects for this year. I'm a big believer in Donovan Mitchell. He's my pick for most improved player, and I think that he is going to come out guns a-blazing and show a terrific improvement over what he was last season. And I also think that Rudy Gobert's ability as a defensive player makes them a top-tier defensive team as a whole. And with him alongside their prolific three-point shooting on the offensive end surrounding Mitchell, I think this team's going to be quite good. I have them 7th, but I think they're really close to sneaking into that top 5. I think they're just a shade behind Brooklyn and Philadelphia. At number 8, I have the Miami Heat. I get it, the Heat made the finals last year, and this is a significant step back from where they were in a lot of people's eyes, but I think that the loss of Jay Crowder was a big deal. Goran Dragic is going to be a year older. Tyler Hero might have just been a flash in the pan. Who knows if he's truly as good as he showed in the bubble. I'm genuinely a believer in him, but it's certainly a possibility. And going back to the Crowder thing, I think that Mo Harkless is a big step back from him. However, they still have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. The combination of those two stars cements them as a top 10 team, and that's why they're here at 8. At number 9, I have the Boston Celtics. I think when fully healthy, this team is perhaps better than the Miami Heat and maybe the Utah Jazz and Philadelphia 76ers as well. But because Kemba Walker is out and these power rankings take injuries into consideration, as you'll see with a team like the Memphis Grizzlies later on in this power ranking, I've got the Celtics here at 9. I love Jason Tatum. I think that he's going to cement himself as a top 12-ish player in the NBA this year. I also think that Marcus Smart's impact is quite underrated, and he should be in a lot more all-star level discussions than he actually is. But as long as Kemba Walker's out, I have a hard time ranking them much higher than I have them here, which is number 9. At number 10, I have the Portland Trail Blazers, who really improved their defense from last year by adding Robert Covington and Derrick Jones Jr. to a wing group that really struggled on the defensive end of the floor. I think that that's greatly going to improve this team on defense, and they can be somewhere around the middle of the road as like a 12th to 15th best defense in the NBA, and that in combination with a likely 5th-ish best offense is going to make this team a legit top 10 team in the NBA, and that's why I have them right here at 10. Number 11, we have the Houston Rockets. Now, in my Western Conference predictions, I listed the Rockets as the 9th seed. And so clearly, they are not the 9th best team in the Western Conference in this power ranking. And that's because they still have James Harden. I was taking into account the fact that he could potentially be traded when making those Western Conference predictions. However, as of right now, this roster is quite a bit better than it would be with the Harden trade. If John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins are as good as they showed themselves to be during the preseason, this team has potential to move up well into the top 10. But as of right now, I feel most safe listing them at number 11. At number 12, we have the Phoenix Suns. I am quite high on the Suns for this year. I think that they are going to be really good. I have them as the 6th seed in the Western Conference at the conclusion of the season. And I think that behind a dynamic trio of Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, this team's going to be quite good. DeAndre Ayton is another player that I think, alongside Donovan Mitchell, could be in the race for the Most Improved Player award for this season. And with his jump alongside the already 2 top 25 players on this team, as well as some nice complementary pieces in Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Dario Saric, Cam Johnson, I think this team's going to be pretty good. I've got them here at 12. Number 13, we have the Golden State Warriors. Now, obviously, it's a huge bummer that Klay Thompson got injured, and if he were healthy, this would clearly be a top 6-ish team in these power rankings, but because Klay is out for the year, they're quite a bit lower than they otherwise would be. However, they still have Steph Curry. I think that Draymond Green is going to have a bounce-back season where we can see him cement himself as a top 40 player once again. And with that, as well as the clear All-NBA caliber performances of Steph Curry and probably MVP-type performances, I think that it's hard for me to put them much lower than 13, so I've got them here. At number 14, we have the Dallas Mavericks. Now, do I think the Dallas Mavericks are the 14th best team in the NBA when at full strength? Absolutely not. I think they're much closer to being a top 8 or 10 team, but due to the fact that Kristaps Porzingis is out at the moment, I can't quite put them up in that same tier as someone like the Heat and the Trailblazers is at the moment. Once Porzingis comes back and proves that he's healthy, I will be ready to move this team up the rankings, as with Porzingis as an all-star caliber guy alongside Luka Doncic, who is certainly going to be something of an MVP contender for this year, although I'm not quite as high on his MVP odds as a lot of people are. Yeah, this team is going to be quite good. They're here at 14 for the moment because of injury reasons. At number 15, I have the Washington Wizards. This is another team that I think that I'm quite a bit higher on than the general consensus. I just don't understand how adding Russell Westbrook to what was already a top-tier offense with Bradley Beal and Davis Bertans will not be a top 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. I have them all the way as high as the 6th seed, and I think that this team is going to surprise a lot of people with how good they're going to be right off the rip behind their 2 All-Stars in Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. At number 16, I have the Toronto Raptors. Now, this is a team that I'm quite a bit lower on than a lot of people are. They have a great coach in Nick Nurse, but like I said before, this is taking into account talent and not coaching. I think that the Wizards have 2 players that are better than the best player on this Raptors team. I love Kyle Lowry, but I think we could see him take a step back in production this year. I think teams are going to start to figure out how to guard Pascal Siakam, and unless he can add another move to that spin move that he seems to utilize in every single possession where he has the ball, I think that it's going to be much easier for opponents to stop him. We're going to see a decline in his production, and I think that that's going to hurt this team, so I've got them here at 16. At number 17, we have the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers are a team that I kind of just throw up my hands at because I don't know what to think. I'm lower on Miles Turner than most people because, yeah, theoretically, he's a high-level rim protector who can knock down threes. Well, newsflash, he was above average but not great protecting the rim last year, and he was slightly below average in terms of shooting the 3 ball and spacing the floor. So the combination of those 2 things make me quite a bit lower on him than I usually would be. I think Victor Oladipo might struggle coming off of his injury. When healthy, he's a terrific player, top 30 in the NBA. But coming off of this injury, it's very questionable as to what kind of production he is going to be putting out there. And although I am quite high on Malcolm Brogdon and Domantas Sabonis, the other questions on this roster, as well as a bench that is a little bit unproven, I'm not quite ready to put this team in the top 15. That's why they're here at 17. Number 18, I have the Atlanta Hawks. This is another team alongside the Wizards that made great improvements in this offseason, is really going to make a run at the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. They added Danilo Gallinari. They added Bogdan Bogdanovic. And this was already a high-caliber offense because of Trae Young and John Collins. So the addition of those 2 players is only going to make them that much better. The questions come on defense. The only true plus defender on this team is Clint Capella. And although I do think they are probably going to be something like the 10th best offense in the NBA, I think there's a good chance that they're something like the 25th best defense. And those 2 things are going to come together and make them probably quite a bit worse than a lot of people think. It's why they're here at 18 for me. And I actually think that there's probably a few teams that we could see past them early in the season, depending on how this team looks. At number 19, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that the talent on this team is quite high. They probably have enough talent to be a playoff-level roster with D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns, 2 of the better offensive players in this league. Russell is a terrific scorer. He's a great passer as well. And although he can't really create for himself in the isolation, he's great in the pick and roll, and that's only going to feed into the skill set of Karl Anthony Towns, who is one of the better rim runners in the league. He can pop out and shoot threes. He's great in isolation opportunities, both in face-ups and post-ups. And I think that the addition of Russell is just going to make him that much more lethal of an offensive weapon. The problems with this team come on the wing, where I'm not sure Anthony Edwards is going to be terrific to kick off his NBA career. Malik Beasley, I throw my hands up at that guy because there's a chance that he's going to be in jail when the season starts, so that's not a good sign. Josh Okogie and Jarrett Culver both struggle on offense, and the bench depth on this team outside of Ricky Rubio really isn't all that good. So, although I have them all the way up here at 19 on the power rankings, I have them finishing at 12th in the Western Conference. And I certainly think that there's a chance that they're quite a bit worse than that, especially after they made one of the more boneheaded moves of this offseason by waiving Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, who I really think would have helped this team out on the defensive end of the floor. At number 21, what? Alright, I'm sorry about that. I realized that I actually skipped a team here, but it's only on my list. It's not a team that we had quite gotten to. I just realized that I did not have a team listed at number 20, so I made some edits there, and we are ready to continue the video. I apologize for that slight interruption. But at number 20, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans have two really good young players in Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. Lonzo Ball and Eric Bledsoe are both very good defensive guards, and Steven Adams is a good anchor in the paint. I just don't really think that this team is as good as a lot of people believe. I think that D'Lo and Karl Towns are both quite a bit, and Karl Anthony Towns is quite a bit better than any team on this Pelicans roster, and I think D'Lo would also be the best player on this team. So I'm not sure that I can rank them above the Timberwolves in terms of talent, even though they do have superior depth. I think that in the regular season they'll probably be a better team, but I have them below the Timberwolves. They're here at 20. At number 21, we have the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are a team that I like quite a bit for this season. I have them finishing 10th in the loaded Western Conference. I think in this power ranking, they're something more like 13th or 12th. So obviously, I think that they're going to be better in the regular season than they are on paper. But on paper, there's still a lot to like about this team. They have two former All-Stars in DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, who are clearly on the downslide of their careers, but they're still very productive players. They also have some young guys who could take jumps in DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, Derek White, and I'm quite high on their rookies in Devin Vassell and Trey Jones as well. I think both of those players could earn themselves some rotational minutes in their rookie seasons. So the combination of all that makes me think that the Spurs are a legit team who could really make a run at the play-in tournament. I've got them here at 21. At number 22, we have the Orlando Magic, who are essentially the Spurs of the Eastern Conference, as they have some older players that are still productive on the offensive end, but are not necessarily what you need to lead your team to being a true contender. They have Nikola Vucevic, they have Yvonne Fournier, Aaron Gordon has flashed potential throughout his time in the NBA, and they have some interesting young players like Markelle Fultz and Mo Bamba, but I think that the loss of Jonathan Isaac significantly hurts the talent on this roster, and I'm not able to put them over the recent run of Western Conference teams that we've had on this list. So that's why they are here at 22. At number 23, I have the Charlotte Hornets. Now, I get that I'm quite a bit higher on the Charlotte Hornets than most people are, but I think that LaMelo Ball is going to be quite good in his rookie season with Charlotte. He's my pick for Rookie of the Year. I also think that Gordon Hayward is genuinely going to be a nice contributor for this team, especially on the offensive end, where he's going to take some pressure off of the younger players and be a true first option on offense. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the NBA, and for those reasons, I think this team is going to be solid, so I've got them here at 23. Number 24, we have the Sacramento Kings. I don't really know what to think about the Kings. I'm not as high on De'Aaron Fox as most people are, and quite frankly, I probably should have this team lower on this list than I do, perhaps even as low as 27th. But I like some of their depth pieces like Nemanja Bjelica, like Richaun Holmes. I think that Corey Joseph is still an effective player, and I love their rookie in Tyrese Halliburton. I just don't know that this team is all that good right now. I think that Harrison Barnes and Buddy Hield really hurt them, not necessarily on the court, but in the cap, because those two guys have huge contracts and are not producing at the level that would warrant that kind of contract. But they still have De'Aaron Fox, who is probably a top 45-ish player in the NBA, and quite frankly, I think that they are probably still better than the teams later on this list, so they're here at 24. At number 25, I have the Memphis Grizzlies, and I really wish I would have put them above the Kings and the Hornets, but I did end up dropping them quite a bit lower than I probably should have as a result of the Jaren Jackson Jr. injury. I think that without him, this team is really going to struggle to space the floor, as Grayson Allen at this moment is the only player who's going to be on the active roster who is actually a plus 3-point shooter. And that's a problem on a team in a league that really values spacing. But because of Ja Morant, Jonas Valanciunas, Brandon Clark all being terrific players in their own right, I still think this team is going to be solid, even if they might get off to a slow start to begin the season. I have them 25th on this power ranking, but I probably should have had them higher, and once Jaren Jackson Jr. comes back, they'll certainly be a climber on this list. At number 26, we have the Chicago Bulls. I get the feeling that I'm quite a bit lower on the Bulls than many people are. I am not a Zach LaVine fan whatsoever. I don't really think that he is all that good. I'm not a big fan of Lauri Markkanen either. I think that he's one of the more overrated players in the NBA, and I think that we could really see him struggle in this season, where apparently they're going to try to get the ball in his hands more often, and I just really don't see it with this guy. I like Kobe White quite a bit, but I think that his ability to really be a primary scoring option in the offense is going to be limited by the presence of Zach LaVine. And for all those reasons, I'm lower on this team than many people are, and I have them all the way down here at 25th. At number 26, we have the Detroit Pistons. I think as currently constructed, this team is better than people are giving them credit for. They are not the bottom dweller that people are saying. They are certainly not as bad as the Knicks and the Thunder at this point, because they have two really good players in Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose. But if those two guys are moved on from, which is certainly a potential outcome for this squad, I think that we could see them significantly get worse and perhaps be the worst team in the league come season's end. At number 28, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. I am quite a bit higher on Colin Sexton than I think the general consensus is. He averaged 20 points per game in his second season in the NBA from the guard spot, and he did it on solid efficiency as well, and I think that really gets overlooked, and I think that he's a player who certainly has all-star upside. He has to improve his passing, and he has to improve his defense, but he is known as a super hard worker, and I think we could see him take strides in the areas that he needs to for this season. Around that, Kevin Love and Andre Drummond are solid veteran presences to have in the locker room. I get it, they're not as impactful as they once were viewed to be, but they're still good players, and I think that this team is better than the Thunder and the Knicks for those reasons. Number 29, we have the previously mentioned Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, Al Horford is good. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is solid. I think he is another guy similar to De'Aaron Fox that has gotten overrated by the general NBA consensus recently, but he's still a quality player, and I just think this team is better than the Knicks. That's who's at number 30 for me. I mean, I said this in my Eastern Conference predictions video. Their best player is Julius Randle. Oh my gosh. Sorry about that. Thought I was going to sneeze, and then I didn't. But, yeah, that is my power ranking from 1 to 30 of who I view as the most talented teams in the NBA. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Who did I have too high? Who did I have too low? Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'm thinking that I might bring out these power ranking videos every single Monday during the season to reflect how I view each team at that current juncture. So let me know if you like this style of video. If you don't, let me know as well, and I won't bother. I think I've covered everything that I needed to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.